Some people like to go to wine tasting groups just so they can sniff a rosé and say stuff like, it has a woody essence. Other people are addicted to picking up a bargain. And then there's me and my dad. Our hobby is finding crop circles. And I know you're probably rolling your eyes thinking, what a load of shit. But if we could once believe some fat guy called Santa Claus squeezes down our chimney just to drop off some presents like a creep, why can't we believe in aliens? In my area, we get a lot of crop circles. I remember the first one my dad took me to. He said, "Do you feel the static electricity the aliens have left behind?" And I said, yeah, because I swear on God I really could. Dad takes a deep breath before saying, "I know there's something out there. There just has to be." And he believed that. And I believed that too because I believed in him. He showed me his phone, right, and there was no signal. If you know anything about crop circles, you know it's impossible to get any signal on your phone when you're in one. That's how powerful a crop circle is. In my area, we've also got Stonehenge. And if you don't know what Stonehenge is, then yeah, you need to get out more. No offence. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's like a gazillion years old and it's proper beautiful. Trust me, I know because my dad took me. We went once when it was raining it down, but I didn't mind. My dad looked me dead in the eye and said, "You were looking at one of life's biggest mysteries." What does that mean? I thought. And that's when he told me everything he knew about Stonehenge. He told me despite all the years of research, nobody knew why it was put here. He told me it's perfectly aligned with the sunrise and the sunset, yet nobody really knew why. He told me clever people had done tests and found out the stones came from Wales. The thing is though, they're extremely heavy, so how were they manoeuvred all this way back in ancient times? I mean, it's impossible. And no matter how many top scientists came from far and wide, nobody, and I mean nobody, could work it out. That's when my dad started laughing. He started laughing in the rain. "People forget the world is full of magic," he said. And he meant that. He believed it. And I believed that too because I believed in him. I can't even lie. It did feel magic right then. Every year we return to Stonehenge for this event called the summer solstice. And whoa, okay, what an experience that was. And no, I'm not talking about an experience like all-you-can-eat buffet at your favourite Chinese. No, this was like an out-of-body experience. The event marks the longest day in the year when the sun reaches its highest peak. And I get it, most people don't give a shit about this. But for some people, this is the one day when the world's energy is at its highest. It represents rebirth and new beginnings. And that's why people come. And I'm not just talking about a little group of hippies. I'm talking thousands. Everyone's there to have a massive party and watch the sunrise. That includes me and my dad. And I get it, I get it. This all sounds very random, but trust me, it's really not. When you're there, it feels you're exactly where you should be. And I'm probably going to sound like a right wanker for saying this, but you feel alive. People are singing, people are dancing, people are meditating. Everyone's in this trance-like state connecting to the universe. And where's my dad? Well, he's by my side, of course. His eyes beaming, his whole face smiling at me, because we both know we're a part of something bigger. I can't even lie, I love where I'm from. It's my favourite place on earth. To be fair, the aliens must think so too, hence why they choose here to leave all their clues and coded messages. And I get it, I get it. I could be wrong. Hey, in fact, you might just think I'm mad. It depends how you define madness, really. Personally, I think anyone that forces their dog to wear any type of clothing are the real nutcases. But hey, they're still going to keep dressing their dog up in jumpers, just like I'm going to still keep chasing crop circles. Because that's what I believe. Because that's what my dad believes. And I believe in him. Except one day, my dad killed himself. And I wish I could tell you I saw it coming. That maybe there was a sign. But there wasn't. And he didn't even leave me a flipping note, mate. And for the life of me, I just couldn't understand why. Like, why would he do this? I went to his funeral, but I didn't even cry. And everyone said, "You're so strong. You're so strong." But I wasn't being strong. I was being focused. I sat there waiting for a sign because I knew my dad wouldn't just leave me like this. Not my dad. But there were no signs. And months went by and there were still no signs, and I couldn't have that. I'm sorry, but that didn't sit right. I needed to know my dad was safe in heaven. I needed to know he could tell me why. Because if I couldn't believe in that, then what could I believe in? So I went to a crop circle in hopes of finding something. But when I got there, all I could see was how fake it looked. I looked down at the blades of corn at my feet. Electric waves hadn't formed them into place. They'd been cut. And when I looked at my phone and I saw no signal, I realised it's because I'm standing in the middle of nowhere. The reception is crap. So I went to Stonehenge in hopes of finding something. But when I got there, all I saw was a bunch of rocks. Nothing mysterious, nothing magic, just plain rocks. So now today, I'm at the summer solstice in hopes of finding something. Yet as I look around, all I see is people gurning and getting off their faces. No one's connecting to some higher power. They're alone in their own heads. It's not beautiful, it's sad. So now I give up, and the rain starts pouring down on me as the heavens erupt, and I'm drenched, my heart wrenched, but I continue walking regardless. Why didn't anyone warn me a world without magic is so cold and heartless? But most of all, it's fucking dull. Maybe that's why my dad jazzed it up a bit. Perhaps that's why I'm looking for a sign, because I don't want to believe he's actually just dead. He's not in heaven, he's rotting in the mud. He's not in some parallel universe with the aliens, he's gone. He's not looking down on me. I'm alone. And so now, as I walk home in the rain, I cry. But no word of a lie. A beam of light falls upon me from up above in the sky. And I'm in disbelief because, this is a bit shocking, let's be honest. I swear there's a light brighter than 1,000 suns and it's looking right at me. And I'm not scared. I'm in awe. Never in my life have I saw anything as beautiful as this before. The rain freezes, I stop breathing, and I see everything. Centuries we've passed and lifetimes to come, all right before my eyes and merging into one. It's magic. The world can be so beautiful and still so tragic. Whoa. If that ain't a sign, I don't know what is. I blink and it's gone. The rain's falling again. I'm breathing again. And the world keeps on spinning. That's the funny thing about life. There are some things we'll never be able to understand. There is so much out there that we haven't discovered. And even if we read all the books, and even if we look, even if we think we know, there are some things we'll just never know. And I guess that's what we hate, isn't it? The not knowing. But why? What are we scared of? Look, I'm not going to sit here pretending I'm some wise philosopher because, I'm not. All I know is life is what you make it. And so, yeah, I just saw an alien. Because that's what I believe. Because that's what my dad believed. And I believe in him.
She's flat. Not flat as a pancake flat, but flat enough to warp the wheel frame if I were to cycle any further. I can feel it under me. every stone and crevice absorbed through the seat and vibrating under my cheeks, like an annoying pitter-patter, white noise on repeat in your ear hole. When I lived in East London, I was spoilt for choice. Wouldn't have even had to think about this, like being repair shops, 10 a penny. If you Google map them, the drop points look like a swarm of buzzing bees seeking their queen. And once you're in, they're bursting with bearded bike brains speedily scuttling towards you to salvage even the simplest of repair. I'd laugh off my mechanical inadequacies, make a quip about learning more, maybe doing a course. Now my mind rushes with regret that I never did. So, here we are. Flat. Hoping it's not a slow push. Ah, shite! This jacket is only water resistant, not proof. Which when the sky opens and it pishes down, it's of no help. It's like wearing a wet wipe, cold and clingy, sheltered under this tree. Not sure whether to go back or to keep going. 10 miles to me mammy's or turn back and 8 miles to the bike shop the other side of town. You see, my mommy has been cocooning. She got a letter. The letter. The stay at home at all costs letter. I prefer to use the term cocoon, as I think trigger terminology of shielding his echoes of the Troubles. Gordon Wilson did everything to shield his daughter the day of the Enniskillen explosion in 87, which killed her and 10 others. After that, we shielded every time there was a bomb scare, shooting, parade or riot. Every time we were evacuated from our houses, or when the neighbour would lie on the ground checking his car for incendiary devices in the council estate. We shielded. Now's the time to cocoon, to envelop, to protect. I've no way out from town other than to cycle. The buses have been cut to shit. 2 a day now, and I miss both. And me mommy, well, she can't get on one because if she came into town she wouldn't get back in anyway. She's cocooning. So we go to her and it's my turn. It's hard to socially distance your body on a bus, let alone your breath. The same warm air that circulates round and round, breathing in and out, contained in circulation on the tin germ vessel. And I can't drive. Part of me thinks it's because we didn't have a car growing up. The benefit kids. The promiscuous plebs of public transport. The privileged freedom that comes with access to the four wheels is something young me dreamed of. Days at the beach, or long drives on a Sunday, or being picked up when stranded, or just driving to the shop and being able to buy heavy things without worrying how to get it back. If I learnt how to drive now, I could assume the role of the DLA chauffeur, but that would mean forms to be filled, existing benefits cut, and potentially tie me to home, for Mana home, for 3 years. And I've been here 6 months and snapping at the bit to leave again. And I still carry the financial burden on my back like a satchel of stone that forced teenage me to get a waitress job at 14 to help alleviate the constant nagging for pocket money. To buy clothes, new clothes. Not second-hand St Vincent de Paul stuff, but shiny, new, sparkly stuff from a shop with the tag and bag and receipt. So when the pandemic hit, my mind whirled in a frenzy. Bare shelves spinning me out. Memories that I had suppressed, buried deep in the recesses of my brain, dug up at the sight of empty shelves, reverberating the hollowness of our childhood cupboards. And I panic. I can't breathe. Everything closes in. I just want to, but I can't. I must can. Strategize. Breathe. I plan. I settle. I grab my bike and I go straight to Tesco, Asda, Duns and scoop as much as I can into a trolley without looking like I'm panic buying. Essentials. Tins, flour, rice. Put it on my credit card. I shove some in my backpack and equal the weight out with bags either side of the handlebars of the bike. It'll be tricky cycling with this, I think. I call home and tell my mommy of some things. And she says, I'm okay for food. It's, I keep, accidents. I keep having wee accidents. I can't hold, and God knows when I'll be getting the operation now. What with? Could you get me some Dettol and the pads? And my heart sinks. My breathing goes again. She's getting older, fragile, frailer. Every time I see her face, a little piece of my heart chips off and disintegrates, reflect in the atmosphere. Gone with the wistful passing of time, like it never was. Edging into territory that my memories don't match with. Memories of her youth. Her dark hair now white grey. Arthritic slow steps sliding along the hallway that she once smashed her sprint times in. Outrunning us at speed. Now she's almost at a halt. Saunters at snail pace. Her memories of her past fading quicker and quicker as the days go by. My instinct is to stay. Stay in between the trees. Shelve them for a while. Until the winter of her life comes to pass and the spring is no more. So I go back, chain me bike up and search every shop. Lugging the shopping with every step. I get the pads, but the Dettol, so loud. I even go and ask in the post office. They say to try the chemist beside the chapel, so I do. We've a delivery coming tomorrow first thing. Comes a voice from beyond a 5-foot perspex plinth. I go home and park the shopping in the hall. I'll get my brother to deliver it next time he is here. Up first thing this morning, and before I know, I'm at the front door of the chemist. Staff haven't even arrived yet and the streets are empty. I hear the rattle of keys. You'll have to wait until 9. I can't let you in. I can't wait. And when the door opens, I rush in. The shelves have been replenished and I sigh with relief. I've 2 bottles of the neat stuff now in my backpack. It's the neat stuff she likes. Pouring it on her clothes like whiskey over ice. Sluicing and sloshing in a bucket in the bath. Feeling pretty smug with the Dettol haul I set off home. But just my luck. Flat. And now it's flatter. Figure it's going to take me 3 to 4 hours to walk the rest of the way. And my mind flickers back to how I indulged on transport links in London like a buffet at a wedding. I was first with my plate. Tubes, trains, buses, Ubers, black cabs. I had them all and more. Now I'm starved and demolished morsels of crumbs laying on the floor in the guise of the rural lift. But you have to book it 2 weeks in advance regardless of pandemic, and that aside, this can't wait. All of a sudden, a car pulls up. I don't recognise. You're Rosie's daughter, right? Jesus, you're soaked. Stick that bike in the back and we'll throw you out the road. Not sure who this is. She pops the boot. And I pop the bike in the back.
Hi, my name's Tom. And I'm not an actor, which means, unfortunately, I have to tell you the truth. As someone who spends their life making things up for other people to say, this feels really weird. Also, not being an actor means that I've got to read this from my phone, so sorry. I want to tell you about a long-distance relationship. I can't really believe it, but I've been in it for the last 20 years, which apart from my parents and grandparents must be the longest relationship of my life. So why do I never talk about you, my love? Is it because we are apart and I try not to think about you? Or have I just moved on? After all, it's not as if we didn't live together perfectly happily for 10 years. I know you felt cheated when I left on that sunny day in 2009, my bag stuffed full of new beginnings as I became a Cardiff undergraduate. And although we've seen each other since, I think that we can both agree there's been a sense of tension, a sense of loss. I had to move on. It's not as if I've never seen you. We decided to go long distance after all. But I know it wasn't easy. On my first morning, when nothing had arrived in my new flat and I felt lost and lonely in unfamiliar surroundings, I thought of you and wished that I was back. At first I visited at weekends and holidays, and yes, as time's gone by, my visits have become less frequent. That's my fault, not yours. I've needed you less, I suppose. It would be far too simplistic to say that we just grew apart. The truth is, and I have committed to telling the truth, haven't I got greedy. I found others to feast my eyes on, to make me feel safe and wanted. You know how it is. Actually, maybe you don't. After all, you thought Cardiff was your rival for my affections, but the real affair was somewhere else entirely. Oh, it started as little visits, and little visits became an overnight, and overnight became weekends, and weekends became... Well, you don't want all the sordid details. Some days, when I'm needing comfort, I really wish I was back where the River Severn flows, taking with it bits of plastic, old shopping trolleys, memories. Some days I really do miss you, Bridgenorth, my lover, my home. Is that really true? Or is it because I've been asked to write this that I've started to think about you again? If the people I love were to move away, would you ever see me again? Of course you have your plus points. The river, the tiny little theatre on the steps, but oh God, those steps, all of them, all over town, coupled with the cobbled streets, the worst of which, Cartway, is where you see tourists valiantly trying not to look out of breath in front of their friends. You didn't always make things easy for me, did you? Not an obvious place for a disabled teenager to grow up. Perhaps in time you'll repay me. I've still got my fingers crossed for that blue plaque, though obviously that won't be until I'm dead and buried. But, despite all of this, even as I say the words Bridgenorth and Shropshire, see, I'm smiling. They are the sounds of home. But of course, there were 3 of us in this marriage. My mum has always lived there too. Her house has always been a comfort, a safe haven that I can retreat to. No matter where I'm living, after every argument and upset, Mum is always waiting with the kettle on, the eggs boiled, and an episode of New Tricks on standby. You're such a comfort too. You never change. There are still the same amount of charity shops for a start. It's friends who've moved on. Did you drive them away? Or did they want to stay but couldn't? Like me. I always knew I wouldn't be able to stay. The relationship was always going to end, wasn't it? After all, you lied to me. No, you betrayed me. Living in an isolated town without being able to drive and buses once a leap year was never gonna work. You could never contain me as I grew, and I reckon you knew that a long time before I did. Why didn't you tell me? Did you want to make me more disabled? Okay, let me state the facts. If I'd stayed, I'd have been completely isolated, stuck in one very pretty little town with life just shrinking away, having to book a taxi a week in advance if I wanted to go anywhere, probably relying on carers, struggling to get my bags back from the shops, and unable to get an online food delivery for love nor money, plus not able to see friends because nearby still means miles away. I'd just be shrinking and shrinking. People do. Then they get comfortable and they think, this'll do. And before they know it, 40 years have gone by and they think, where did the time go? So yes, I've been having an affair with smelly old, noisy old London. It makes me feel free. There's always something that I can be part of and I feel safe. I know that must sound weird. Why can somewhere so large be safer than somewhere so small? I can't explain it, but somehow it breaks my heart. If only I'd not agreed to write about you. Bridgenorth, is it really time for us to say goodbye? I can't keep playing you and London off against each other like this. It's like I have a dual identity, a double life. It can't go on. I must choose, but I think the choice has already been made, don't you? I'm hopeless at goodbyes. My gran, Nanan, died 6 years ago. She thought Nanan made her sound like a sheep, but it was the name I called her since I was a baby, and she loved it anyway. Nanan knew how to make anyone feel at home. She used to put me to bed when I had a migraine. Sometimes if Mum and me both had migraines at the same time, she'd put us both to bed, kiss us on our foreheads, and make us comfortable. I still have her landline number saved on my phone. Haven't been able to delete it, which I know is so silly. Sometimes I imagine just pressing her name, listening to the bring-brings, hearing her voice, so pleased to hear all my news. Hello, Nanan, it's only Tom. Then I remember someone else has that number now, a stranger. Why is it that I just can't press delete? I can remember all the phone numbers from when I was a kid, but you'd have to put a gun to my head to make me remember the colour of my bedroom walls. I can always add it again if it bothers me, can't I? It's not like I'm going to forget her. I can't hang on to someone else's number, a stranger's number. I mean, I wouldn't want to call it by accident. My school friend Nat is next on the list. I wouldn't want to be calling him for a chat and suddenly find that I'm speaking to... Goodbye, Nan. I know you won't be gone. This city can be a cruel place if you don't like where you live or who you live with. Thank goodness I like both. The street I live on now, my new amour, is a bit of a party street. It's known for miles around as the place to come if you want to have a good time. Some neighbours find living on a friendly London street a bit of a shock when they first arrive, but they soon acclimatise. I've loved the atmosphere from the minute I moved in. It reminds me of growing up in a small market town where you have no choice but to learn how to build communities. You have to get on with people or keep yourself very much to yourself. You don't have a choice. But I do have a choice. The thing is, as long as my mum lives in Bridgnorth, I'm never going to say goodbye, am I? I'm always going to have one foot in both camps, stretching between London and Shropshire, which with my physical abilities won't be very easy. Trouble is, I still have Mum's number stored as home in my phone too. Yes, I know, I'm nothing if not predictable. If I can do it for Nan, I can do it for Mum too. It won't change anything. She'll still be standing at the hall table complaining, phone lines aren't as clear as they used to be, and I can't hear you. It's not my number anymore. Hasn't been for the last 11 years. And yet, in some ways, it will always be my number. Goodbye, old friend. Hello? Mum? I was just talking about you. Me? Oh, I'm fine. Just talking to myself. Yeah, of course I'm at home. Where else would I be?
It was never the plan. 6 months tops was what I had in mind, but 6 months quickly turns to 6 years once your roots are well bedded. When I first arrived, you hadn't been here that long yourself, maybe a year or so before I landed with my bags. It was strange for me to move into somewhere you called home, but that I'd never known as home before. I remember thinking that quite vividly. We're separate organisms now. The cuttings had been taken and, as far as I was concerned, couldn't be transplanted back. It was a stopgap, a welcome one at that, but a stopgap nevertheless. As I reached the farm gate for the first time, the thing that immediately hit me was the fact that we were sat right in the bowl of a valley, with Mynydd Gartheniog looming over the landscape from the northeast, Mynydd Hendry D from the west, and Coed Mawr to the south. I was instantly brought face to face with my own insignificance in the world. Taking in the waves of varying greens and browns from the coniferous trees that were stretching out all around me, it was as though I was dancing along each word of the Mabinogion, the tumbling landscape holding a mythic quality, with Arthurian legend embedded deep below the ubiquitous slate. Either side of the track that leads to the house are 2 pieces of meadowland that combined amount to roughly 2 acres. They weren't serving much purpose when you got here, neither for garden or grazing, but a notion struck you that would put the land into use, turning it at the same time both fecund and ornamental. Deciding upon 85 apple trees, you bought a selection of Cadwallader, Pigaderin, Cummy Norman, Toyny Sheriff, and Idorid, to name a few. Digging 85 holes and planting 85 trees is tougher than you might at first think. You could hardly move for days after you'd finished, but the initial stage was complete. A job well done. The trees were in situ and it was now about whether they were going to thrive or not. To be honest, that first year was more than a little nip and tuck at times. For a while, it looked like quite a few wouldn't make it through the winter, but with some love and a sprinkling of luck, 83 out of the 85 that were originally planted survived to the following spring. And what a spring that was. Everything seemed to clear somehow, like a sea fret lifting or the sleep being scraped away from your eyes. The air felt lighter, the sun burnt brighter, the birdsong trilled louder than I'd ever remembered. And when the apple blossom bloomed on those trees, those pinks and whites were dazzling on the breeze. Of course, it wouldn't be that spring that the fruit would be ripe for picking, or for another few at least, but it was the new beginning that mattered the most. Things were different. Things were moving forward. It was like my life was entwined with the burgeoning of those trees. I'd flown from air to here, wings clipped from one grievous slip. I'd collapsed, shot drunk and sleeping pill licked. It was you who stomach pumped the soul strangler from me. So now those significant dates that had weighed down my heart passed by without a thought, and suddenly, 2 years on, I'd forgotten I'd ever been anywhere other than here, other than home. The first crop came. We set out to pick and gather the fallers, then into the scullery to pull out the fruit press. We wheel in the barrow, wash the apples, remove any bruisers, chop them, scrap them, and finally press. I watch as each apple pours forth its body of golden liquid like an overflowing chalice. The goodness has been nurtured and now must be allowed to find another kind of life for itself. Again, time passes, but this time with a new marker, fermentation. You and I, we await the pleasures of the extraction. With each glass I sup, I'm reminded of how much work you've put into those trees. Disease did strip you of several saplings, but not enough for real concern. There will always be losses. Much like the land those trees are rooted in, it is to be expected that things will be up and down. But it's the hours of care you put into the tending of those trees that's enabled them to prosper here. I remember watching you prune one winter. The attention to detail. Boots in mud, hat on head, jacket hanging down to your knees, the lonesome wanderer held upright by a hand-carved staff. Nothing stops you. Through the murky mountain mist, you cultivate the dormant trees by cutting away any dead and damaged branches, by pulling up any weeds from around the roots, by ratchet strapping the trees to straighten and support them. You give them the best possible opportunity to get the air they need to flower and flourish. And for me too, to think of how I'd been dug up, flooded to the point of drowning. I'd been drained of nutrients and needed drying out, repurposed and replenished. I was now held up. Now, as I again walk past the orchard, I think of you being nearly blown away as you resiliently turn those trees tulip-like. I look at them and I see how strong they are, how much they've developed from when you first planted them. And I know that is all because of you fighting for them, giving them everything they need to subsist, to endure and go on. Elemental onslaughts augur the greatest of fears. Snow, frost, floods, drought, gale-force winds. Yet despite all that, they're still standing tall. They're still growing and breaking out in blossom each spring. With you there for them, they weather each assault and come through all the better for it. Life wouldn't be half as easy without you by their side. Life wouldn't be half as beautiful. They can't say that to you though, but I can. You know, it was never the plan. 6 months tops was what I had in mind, but 6 months quickly turns to 6 years once your roots are well bedded. And isn't it amazing? I'm sure things will continue to undulate as they always have done. Each year you'll work in harmony with the seasons to bring the trees to bountiful maturity. And it's the fruits of those labours that are the most nourishing, the most thirst-quenching. We share a bottle and recline in reminiscence.